restore strategy is something where you need to actually consider multiple factors and multiple scenarios. You need to be able to restore data to your own account. You need to be able to restore data to some other platform in case the platform that you're using has an outage. You need to be able to come back in time and restore a copy from 3 months ago. You need to be able to restore only specific object that you're after, etc. And there's tons of scenarios. And the question is, without providing you the slide, how many of you would be able to name all of those? Probably not everyone. I'm tempted to say that most of you wouldn't be able, because only people that are aware of all the scenarios that can happen, or at least most of them, are people who are specialized in backup. So maybe your sysadmin knows, fingers crossed. But people in DevOps, sorry guys to break it to you, but you typically don't know it. But we're here to help. That's why we provide solution for the automated backup and disaster recovery of DevOps infrastructure. But we'll get to that in the moment. Now I wanted to speak with you about pillars of your backup strategy. So let's say, fingers crossed, I convince you to have a backup of your DevOps data. I convince you to back up your GitHub, your GitLab, your Jira, whatever you are working with. But what do you really need to do while setting up the backup? What do you need to think about? First of all, you need to think about data you backup. And the good backup is backup with the widest possible coverage. So first of all, ask yourself, what are the tools that we are working with? Okay, we utilize GitHub, we utilize Jira. Is it only this? Actually, there is this one team working in support. They do some stuff, they write some implications in Bitbucket, so Bitbucket too. Is this only that? We have legacy deployment on-prem as well. Okay, are you using it? From time to time. Okay, so it's also part of it. So you need to think about the whole spectrum of your DevOps tools that you're using and back up all of them. Because if you keep them for the time being, it means that you keep them for a reason. You might need them one day. So if you might need them one day, you need backup of them as well. The second thing is asking yourself, what data out of those systems we should back up? And there are obvious things like, okay, we need to back up our source code, or from Jira, we need to back up our tickets. But then we need to start prioritizing which projects from GitHub are most important, which projects from Jira are the most important, which metadata are the most needed for us to keep our work. So let's say that today we are cutting you off from GitHub and you need to start using GitHub from scratch with completely empty account, but you can recover part of your data. Which data you want inside of your GitHub? Oh man, I need my pull requests. Without those, I have no history of what was happening. I need issues. I need history of task and communications. I need my deployment keys, etc., etc. And it's actually quite good exercise to have this workshop internally with your software team leaders to discuss, okay, guys, let's have this hypothetical scenario. We've lost access to our GitHub. What information or which projects do we need to continue working as the outage never happened, or to get back to work as soon as possible? Because at the end of the day, recovery is typically about getting back to work as soon as possible with as much data as possible, not necessarily everything. Later on, we come to the point of storage of your data. So, okay, you've made your backup. Where are you going to keep them? Probably keeping it in the same infrastructure when you're hosting is not a good idea. So probably it will be good to have some external storage. Should it be cloud? Should it be on-prem? Should it be both? You need to think about it. Maybe it should be more than one storage. Maybe I should have one storage and replicate content of this storage every couple of days to another storage. So even if I keep my data in my S3 bit bucket, even if AWS has an outage, I have my backups kept in some other location. Maybe it's worth to keep one server somewhere on-prem as well. So you need to think about where we are keeping the data. It should be more than one location, spoiler alert, and also in what format you're keeping the data. One of these advantages of making backup with a script is the fact that those data are typically not encrypted in any way. You should also consider how are we going to encrypt our backup data, and maybe we should put them in some file system that chunks them. So even if somebody puts the hands on our data, they are not able to recover anything from it without our encryption key and without specialized software for doing that. Maybe what should you consider also is making sure that your storage is immutable. Immutable storage is a type of storage in which you can write data into once, you can read many from it, but you cannot make changes to the storage later on. Meaning that even if some malicious actor, like this angry subcontractor, put hands on your storage, they are not able to wipe the storage. So again, multiple scenarios to think about. Next thing is our disaster recovery scenario, something that we've touched upon. And there's, again, multiple scenarios that you need to consider. So what can possibly happen to our DevOps infrastructure and how we will recover from it? And what makes reliable disaster recovery solution? So what scenarios you should take into consideration? First of all, being prepared for the outage, being prepared for GitLab going down. You should be able to make cross restore to another platform. So if GitHub has an outage, after 48 hours of outage, you can say, okay, guys, for the time being, we are switching to GitLab because it lasted 48 hours. We have no confidence that it will come back in next 24. For the time being, we are restoring our data back to GitLab to continue working there. Or very common scenario, you have outage of cloud and you're restoring data into your on-prem instance. We have GitHub self-managed instance. We are not doing anything with it on a daily basis, but in case of outage, we are restoring our cloud data into it so we can continue working there. Another thing, priority for us is getting back to work as soon as possible. Our boss is telling us, guys, every hour costs us 20 grand. We cannot wait any longer for our platform to come back live. Okay, then you want to be able to granularly restore most important data, but without overrating that's already anything that's already in place. Like, let's say you've lost 80% of your data from your GitHub account. You say, okay, we want to have restore, and we want to restore most of our data, but we don't want to just bring back the whole instance with a script, because our last script backup was done a week ago, and we'll lose a week worth of data. We want to be able to restore the things that we need to continue working, and we want to continue working with only those things without disrupting the rest, because maybe in this instance, there is something that we want to keep using. I have actually a pretty interesting story about such a scenario. One of the companies I'm, let's say, friends with has been using Jira for their operations. And during the update of their Jira, that was Jira server, they had an outage that resulted in data loss. And that happened in the afternoon. And as a result of it, they lost the whole day worth of data because they wanted to restore from their backup that they've done in the morning. The data loss happened in the afternoon. The data loss happened only on part of the legacy data, but they were only able to restore from the backup that was covering the whole instance, meaning that they lost the whole day worth of data that from Jira. So everything that people done during the day, it went to trash because they used outdated backup. Another thing, if you lost access to your account, so my favorite scenario with our angry subcontractor, then first of all, if you have backup of your GitHub instance, like this customer did, you are able to make a restore. And even if you lost your original account, you want to be able to restore to completely different new account. And what we've done with this customer, actually, during the call, customer created with us free GitHub account, and they restored data into it from their backup, and they could have continued working without losing their source code. So that was a great example of how backup can be beneficial in case like this when we have our malicious actor. Sometimes we realize that certain data has been lost too late. For example, I had a customer who, for some reason, or I remember the reason, they changed permissions of one of the users in their GitHub, and they realized they haven't been backing up their deployment keys for over 2 weeks. And normally, if you are limited to using only your latest copy in restore, you are not able to retrieve those deployment keys because you haven't been protecting them for the last 2 weeks. However, with point-in-time restore, you're able to come back to copy you've done a month ago or 3 weeks ago and restore this specific data that you're looking for from it. So again, multiple different scenarios that your backup strategy should consider. And last but not least, having overview of your backups. Because many of the people, when they work with backup, even if they have great disaster recovery strategy in place, they make a backup, they put it nicely encrypted, protected in super secure storage, and they have a replication of the storage, but they never look into this backup until it's needed. You should be able, first of all, to access your backups from anywhere in the world, because sometimes your boss might call you on holidays and tell you that, hey, we have an outage, I need your help, stat. You should be able to monitor your backups. You should be able to see if we pulled all the data we need from GitHub. Is our backup up to standard? Is our backup working? Do I have somebody else in the office who is able to assist me with restoring the data while I'm on holidays and my boss is calling me half scared, half angry? So those are all those things that we need to consider for the backup. You need to have overview of your backups, access to them at all the time, and you need to be sure that they are working. The huge thing that many people are also forgetting about is testing your backup. So, hey, you've done your backup, you're happy with it, you have no outages, but hey, maybe once a month, maybe once a quarter if you're busy, create empty sandbox account, try restoring data into it from one of your backups, and make sure it's up to standard. Make sure that the restore time is something acceptable for you. Make sure that you're restoring enough data and you're happy with the restored data. There's nothing missing, there's nothing lacking, there's no data corrupted, you have everything you need.